Please welcome Brittany Fox, who is the owner and co-founder of Focus Global Talent Solutions, one of the fastest growing niche IT staffing agency in South Florida. She is passionate about changing the way recruitment is done in tech, guaranteeing immediate results upon engagement, and serving clients the best candidates they will ever encounter. As a huge believer in changing the face of tech, Brittany champions and supports women to help them get the roles they deserve.
Hello, everyone. I am Brittany Fox, and I am super excited to be here today and to be talking about our topic, which is about empowering more women in data science, how to overcome challenges, and how to get to your next career opportunity, whether that's in your current organization and or if you're looking for a new opportunity in the field. We're going to cover it all. And also, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the marketplace when it comes to trends and what I'm personally seeing. And as I mentioned, I'm Brittany Fox, and I co-founded and I am the owner of Focus GTS. We are a niche IT staffing company based here in Miami, Florida. And we cover the whole US when it comes to placing talent. And I am super excited that we can connect globally and to have this conversation today to really help women advance their career. It's a topic I'm personally super passionate about, helping more women get the jobs that they deserve. And so we're going to dive right into it today. And when I started my company about 5 years ago, I started it with my husband, and he had been in staffing for over 8 years before. And he was consistently the #1 global top biller. And he always found that working in niche areas of technology is really how we can make a difference as recruiters to be able to help our candidates and our clients to really be that market expertise. And so when we launched Focus GTS, we were looking at what technologies would we focus on. And as I started doing research, of course, AI pops up as one of the top trends of technology for growth. And I'm like, okay, well, you start Googling AI and learning more and more about it, it's a broad field, right? And so, of course, what do you do as a recruiter? You go on LinkedIn, and I start typing in artificial intelligence, AI, who's a director in this space, how can I learn from them? And what kept popping up on my LinkedIn was data science over and over. I saw this trend and I realized that this was a huge opportunity. And I'm personally a very data-driven person. I'm very analytical. So when I realized what a data science can do for business, I knew that this is exactly where I wanted to specialize. So I have been placing data scientists for over 5 years. I have helped many Fortune 500 companies build out their entire data science team. One of our biggest success stories was working with a company that we built out over 45 positions for them and really understand their business and what they're looking to achieve. And one of the first things that we're going to talk about is what's happening in the marketplace when it comes to hiring, what I'm seeing. And of course, I'm based here in the US, but I think there's a lot of trends that are similar across the globe because they know this is a global conversation. And I was speaking actually with one of the C-levels at one of these Fortune 500 companies. And we were talking about the economy and what's happening. And obviously, we're seeing a lot of layoffs across the field in the space, right, from the big tech companies. And the conversation I had with him was the companies that cut back on their data initiatives are really going to suffer and might not even be around because they have now seen the value of data so much that the C-level is fully on board. The CEO is very excited about what is happening and the opportunities and the problems that the data scientist and the team are being able to solve and to generate revenue, which I know is why a lot of people get into data science, is because you want to solve complex problems. So being able to solve these problems and add more value to the organizations is really where it's at. And so the companies that are cutting back on these initiatives we believe are going to suffer. And also doesn't mean that they're not going to, because sometimes with budget cuts, you have to. But always in a down economy, if that's where we're headed, nobody really knows, right? If that's where we're headed, I am a firm believer that there is always so much opportunity in the space as well, because think about this. I read an article. The big tech companies like Google and Facebook, they're laying off really great talent. So that's a huge opportunity for other companies that are still thriving financially to be able to swoop up top talent. And maybe that's you, top talent. So don't be discouraged. There's a lot of opportunity out there for data scientists in the field. So today I want to give you some tangible advice, some practical tips of what you can do to stand out, because we've seen it be a very candidate-driven market, and it's slowly switching to more of a client-driven market where the clients are more in control, the company, the organizations that are doing the hiring because they have more candidates to choose from. So how can you stand out as a data scientist and ensure that you get the next opportunity that you're looking for? So I just want to start out with a little bit of information of what's happening. And the first thing I want to talk about is how more than ever, more women are pursuing degrees in data science. And I'm just going to read a statistic here that says, according to the National Center for Women and Information Technology, women earned 42% of all undergraduate degrees in statistics in 2018. And that's up from 28% in 2010. So while we still have a lot of work to do, there is a lot of progress being made in the field, which is exciting to see how women are entering the field. And we all know how important having a diverse team is, especially in data science when you're dealing with data, because we hear it all the time. The data is only as good as clean as it is. Right. And with a lot of teams, the more diverse, the less opportunity there is for bias to come into the data. And so companies are realizing this, the importance of the diverse team in data science. So getting more women in these positions are a big initiative for companies, which is exciting to see. And women are advancing in leadership as well within the field. And according actually to WIDS, 24% of data science leadership roles are held by women. While this may not seem like a huge number, it is progress. And I hope after this conversation today, we can help even more women get into those leadership roles. And one thing that is exciting to see too is women are performing more professional networking groups. We have organizations like WIDS. I know here locally, we have a ton of meetup groups that are specifically for women in technology. We, of course, have organizations like Girls Who Code, Girls in Tech, Black Girls Who Code. There's so many fantastic organizations that are promoting women. So I encourage you, and it's going to be part of our conversation today, is to get involved in these organizations, how you can both make an impact and learn from these different organizations. So it's exciting to see what's happening in the field with women, how we are advancing. So let's continue. And I truly believe as women unite, we are much stronger together and incredible things happen. So with that, so that's a little bit about what's happening in the marketplace, what I'm seeing, how women are advancing, and how we can continue to grow. There is that opportunity for us to continue to grow and advance. So that's what we're going to dive into next. So I want to talk about strategies for your next data science job, which is what I do all day, every single day. So I'm super excited to have this conversation right now. And what I want to start off with, and how the conversation is, before you ever get to the interview stage, you have to have the opportunity to be interviewed, right? And so where this really starts is, and even before, I encourage you, if you're not looking for an opportunity, it really is going to be about those relationships that you have, which we're going to talk a lot about today. But the first thing you always want to do is to have a strong LinkedIn profile. If you don't have LinkedIn, it's really where it's at. I believe this is a global thing, that this is the number one platform of where you're going to find your next job and opportunity. So I'm going to have my LinkedIn pulled up here during this conversation so I can make sure to cover all these topics. So feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. It's Brittany Fox. at Focus GTS. And what's really important is to have a professional page so that people understand who you are and what you do and your work experience. Now, there's several tips and tricks that I can give you that will help recruiters find you. I am, of course, a big advocate for working with a recruiter. Also, the big companies too, they have their internal recruitment team on LinkedIn looking for that top talent. So that's where you're most likely going to be found. So you want to have a really clear intro of what you do. You can see on my page, it says owner and co-founder of Focus Global Talent Solutions. I let people know that we are hiring right away. And I'm a champion of women in technology, which I told you before, I'm super passionate about, and also about data science and artificial intelligence. So you understand who I am from the get-go. You have my location, my website is there. And then scrolling down a little bit more, you can see one of the things that is the first is the featured. So if you have any publications, if you have any articles that have been written about you, you have any videos, you want to make sure to upload them here so that people can see what you've done. And this is a conversation that we're going to have today too, is that as women, we're less likely to talk about our achievements than our maybe our male peers, because we want to make sure we come across as nice and not come across typically as being bossy or conceited. So this is something that this is your opportunity to shine, to really talk about your achievements. So do not be shy in this area, because if not, people aren't going to know what you've accomplished. So make sure you put any features there. And then the next thing you can see is activity. You can see I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm posting articles, I'm commenting, I'm liking. And this is really important so that people can see that you're an expert in your field. People come to me all the time and talk about the posts that I make. So this really is an opportunity for you to become a celebrity in your market, because it is a lot about branding and being a market expert when it comes to getting your next opportunity. And that's how you're going to be found. The next section is the about, and you can understand a synopsis of who I am, my career history. And also you get a personal touch of me too, while still being professional about what I believe. And it's also the tagline of my company, but it's also my personal mission and belief is that I believe in breaking limits and changing lives. And it brings that human aspect. You can see I'm big on mindset and psychology. So it gives a human touch while still being professional. And people want to relate to people. We're all humans, even in the job field, when we go to look for that next opportunities, we want to connect. We want to know how are we relatable? And this is a good opportunity for you to connect maybe with that next hiring manager or recruiter, that they can see that side of you as well. And then the experience, it's super clear. You can see all of my jobs, where I've worked, summary. And some people will ask me, should I write it as I did this, or should they write in a third party? Brittany, co-founder of Focus GTS. Brittany has done this. But everyone knows that it's your LinkedIn and that you're the one that is writing this. So I'm a big advocate for saying I versus writing it in your third person. Even if you're super accomplished, I think it just keeps that human element to it. And then your education, having it clear. Now, when it comes to looking for the job, one thing that is important that you highlight on your LinkedIn page is your skills. Because when recruiters go into LinkedIn and start doing a search looking for a candidate, they search by skills. So you need to put all your relevant technical skills there, because that's how you're going to be found when they look for keywords. And then also recommendations. If you can get more recommendations, I need to get a couple more. Mine are a little outdated. It's not something that I ask a lot of from my colleagues, and I need to get some more here. But receive, this is something that validates you in the workforce, that not only do you say you do these things, but you have other people championing you as well. And then if you scroll down, I love this part where you can see your interest. And I do all of the hiring internally for my company as well. Probably done over 1,000 interviews by now at this point. With data science candidates and my internal staff, probably well over that actually. But the top voices, you can see who I follow, the companies that I'm interested in, groups and schools. And this is something that I typically check out. I do check out most candidates' LinkedIn profile that's interviewing internally with my company. And I look at this and you can see that I follow, let's say, Tony Robbins here. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. So if I see anyone who also follows him, it's an instant point of connection in the conversation. And that really is a good opportunity for you to connect with other people as well, is by checking to see and scrolling their LinkedIn. And we're going to talk about that during the interview conversation. After you've got your great LinkedIn profile, you're rocking it, you're getting opportunities, the resume is going to be key for the interview process. Now, this is also super fascinating to me because I would love to see a change in the resume, because this is something we've used since the beginning of the interview process, but it doesn't always showcase who is the best for the job. It really is once you get to the interview. But in the meantime, while we're still using the traditional written resume, this is something you want to make sure is really strong. And you want to be able to list a summary under each role of your accomplishments. Now, this is my biggest tip for you as a data scientist is of course, you're going to have your technical skills listed, but what you really want to highlight, and something that is consistently asked of me to find in a candidate, is a data scientist who not only understands the technical side, but understands the business problem and can understand what they're doing, and not just put in and build the models, but they understand the business value and the ROI that it's going to bring to the organization. So you want to highlight this on your resume. So you want to talk about, okay, this is a project I did. This is how it was implemented. This was the impact on the business. That is my biggest advice to you on your resume, is to make sure that you're highlighting that. It's the number one request that I get from hiring managers. And also, once we get to the interview phase, you're going to want to talk about this, which we're going to get into in just a second. But be prepared to talk about what you've accomplished through building your different models and the problems that you've solved in the organization. And with the resume, the thing that is really most impactful is that you can be concise and highlight your accomplishments. 2 pages is really all I would ever recommend. There is a ton of advice out there. I don't want to spend too much time, but do your research as you do as data scientist, and make sure that you have a really clean resume, because this is your opportunity. It's your first impression typically to the hiring manager. Maybe you get the opportunity to talk to a recruiter like myself or the internal HR, but the hiring manager, that's the first thing that they're going to see. So let's get that polished. Let's get it ready to go. Feel free to send it to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help if I can. I get a lot of requests for resumes, and it's not a service or anything that we offer, but I'm always happy to help as much as I can when it comes to the resume. And typically a recruiter or your HR person is looking at hundreds of resumes a day, and that they only look at it for 6 seconds on average. So you got 6 seconds to grab an attention there. So you want to make sure that it's stand out and it's clean. So let's talk about the interview process. So you've been found on LinkedIn or maybe another job board or wherever the source came from. You've got the resume, it's strong, and always bring copies of your resume to the interview, which is what we're going to talk about now. So when you get to the interview phase, this is super critical that you really understand the organization and the position that you're interviewing for. And I can't tell you how many times I've interviewed people for my company internally, and also feedback I've gotten from hiring managers that have interviewed data scientists. And they ask them the question, what do you know about our company or organization? What's making you excited about this position and our company? And the candidate says something like, oh, I'm just super interested in getting my next job, or maybe they just make like a high level summary, and you can tell that they didn't do their research on the organizations. So that's super critical that you understand the organization before you ever walk into the interview. Do your homework, understand who you're meeting with, and don't be shy to ask the recruiter or the HR person, who will I be meeting with? Look them up on LinkedIn, know who, and you can do exactly what I just walked through on LinkedIn. Look at who they follow, be able to have that personal conversation, because we are typically more likely to hire someone that we relate to and that we connect with. Even if we believe that they can do the job, sometimes, unfortunately, candidates will get passed because they were not able to connect with the people that they were interviewing with. and maybe they don't see it as a culture fit or other reasons that pop up. But this will be to your advantage if you can connect with the hiring manager, with whoever is interviewing you, and building that personal relationship. I always like to advise my candidates to start off the interview process when they get there is typically they'll run you through how they're going to do the interview, and they'll say, do you have any questions before you get going? I love for my candidates to ask, and I love it when someone asks me this when I'm interviewing them, is can you tell me a little bit about your ideal candidate for this role? What would really make a candidate stand out in this position? And you're giving yourself a huge advantage here because you're understanding if you're right for the position or not. And if you are the candidate, how you can sell back to that need. If they say exactly who and what you are, you're now able to highlight that and sell back during the conversation. And two, during the interview process, you want to give specific examples. One advice that I want to give specifically to the women out there is that typically we talk about when it comes to our accomplishments, which I talked about on LinkedIn, you got to be proud, you got to put it out there, you got to talk about it. But in the interview process, typically we are more likely, or even in our one-on-ones with our managers. So if this is something just to be aware of, is when you're doing your one-on-ones or you're in that interview process, is we're more likely to say, we worked on this project. We were able to accomplish this project this way. And we don't say I. We don't say, I did this. This was my accomplishment. I was able to build this model and put it into production, and I did this way, right? We're more likely to say, well, we were able to get the model into production, and you include your team, right? Which there is a time and place for that. It's not about not including the team. This is not that conversation. It's about you saying specifically what you did, because actually I'm reading this book called How Women Rise, which I highly recommend it. And it talks about the 12 habits that are holding women back from their next promotion, pay raise, and career. And this was one of the examples that was given in the book, was that a woman was actually looked over for a promotion because the manager didn't understand what she was doing, because in the weekly one-on-ones, she always talked about we, the team. And so he didn't know if she was capable of going to the next level in her career because she hadn't been talking about herself specifically. So ladies, let's get out there. Let's talk about I, because no one else, as I mentioned before, is going to just speak up for you, especially in an interview and or when you're looking to have those one-on-one conversations with your managers. So, okay, and now in the middle of the interview, you got to give specific examples of the problems that you've solved and how you have accomplished your role. So you want to be, again, talking about those proud moments. And also, this is really important when you get to the end of the interview. This is what I always advise my candidates, is to ask this question: is there anything based upon our conversation today that you're hesitant to move forward? And you want to leave it as you want to stop talking. It's very easy to keep going because I'm not sure if I covered this, or I just want to make sure it's clear. So you want to leave it at that type of question so that you can get and clear up any information that is needed. And also at the end of the interview, this is your chance to ask questions. It's really important as a candidate to ask questions. One of my biggest turn downs of a candidate is I'm loving the candidate, and at the end of the interview, they don't ask me questions, because it leads me to believe that they are not interested in the role, and or maybe they just think that they know it all. And that's not a good sign either in a candidate I'm looking to interview. So you want to ask questions. I mean, this is a two-way street. You're interviewing the company just as much as they're interviewing you. This is one of the biggest decisions people make, is their careers. So have a list of questions. Don't be afraid to ask it all, so that you can get the clarity you need to make the best decisions. And then, of course, there comes the negotiations, right? You've got the offer, you've got to that point. So now you need to negotiate your salary. And women are less likely to negotiate than men. So I want to encourage the women to get your negotiating hats on, do your research, understand what is fair market value for this position, what's being paid, and feel free to talk to colleagues, feel free to talk to your recruiter, and also to just do some role playing to understand the conversation, what it looks like, and also to understand what the budget is for this role too, so that you make sure that you are being compensated fairly. You can ask specifically, and you can ask first before, at the beginning of the conversation, before the interviews happen. Typically, you'll be asked, what is your salary requirements? Feel free to ask, what is the salary budget for this role, so that you understand what the budget is and you can understand if your qualifications fit into that budget and if this is the right role for you from the very beginning. Because the last thing we all want to do is get to the end of an interview process and we're way off on budget. So understand this from the beginning would be my first advice. And then once you're at the negotiation stage, women, we're less likely to negotiate. So whether that is salary or even just perks, there's always some opportunity there. And I mean, this again could be a whole talk on itself about negotiating the salary, and whether it's perks or PTO or benefits and or remote policies. There's a lot of opportunity out there. So I'm actually in a women's chat group, and one of the girls just got an offer, and her first comment was, should I negotiate? Because I don't want to seem like I'm not grateful. That's not the case, ladies. The case is that you will seem grateful, but you will seem like confident, right? Which confidence is a huge challenge, I think, for women in the workplace sometimes, to stand up and ask for what they need. So feel free to do more research. And in that book, they specifically talk about how to get to your next promotion. So, and raise when you're in the negotiating phase. So let's get out there, ladies, and negotiate our salary. The final thing that I want to leave you with today is to talk a little bit about mindset. And I don't know if you've heard the saying, but 80% of business is actually psychology. 20% is strategy. And I think we have enough strategy out there to get the job done, especially when it comes to data science, right? There's a lot of strategy about how to impact the business and how we can make a difference and generate revenue for the company. And as a woman, this is something that I think we often struggle with, from, as you mentioned, low confidence, from self-doubt, to not talking about our own personal achievements, from bringing the we, and also being a people pleaser and saying yes to more things than we should. So I want to talk about mindset. It's something that I encourage all my candidates that I work with, and also different women's networking groups that I'm in. It's a constant conversation. I was actually just hosting on International Women's Day a panel of C-level women of a Fortune 500 company, 100. And the conversation was so interesting to me that we all had the same struggles, no matter what it was. And we were talking about one of the CIOs, she said that we were talking about how do you get your career to the next level? Like, what is it? What is something you either had to stop doing that got you to a certain point in your career, but oftentimes won't get you to the next level? The same thing, you got to advance your careers. And she had realized that she needed to speak up more, that she would oftentimes maybe be in a meeting and she wouldn't advocate her voice. And especially if you're an introvert, this can be even more of a challenge. I know it's something I've personally dealt with. I'm personally more on the introvert side, but I also realize that when I'm in a room, no one's going to advocate for me except for me. So I need to speak up. So this is an opportunity for women to continue to rise, and leadership women, is to speak up, let your voice be heard, and know that you do have something to say. And it's a constant journey to work on your mindset, to work on your psychology, to know that you do deserve that leadership role. So I just want to encourage you out there to know that you are worthy of that position, of that role. You have worked really hard, and don't let self-doubt get in the way. And there's a lot of books you can read on this. Actually, I read from Chief, if you're familiar with the women's organization. They had sent out their top book recommendations for 2023. And one of them was that book, How Women Rise. The other book was Successful Women Speak Differently. And it talks about a lot of what we've been talking about today is to use your voice. And so I just want to encourage you out there to pick up some books to not only study your technical skills, but to study your mindset and psychology and what it takes to be successful and to advance your career. It's a huge component of having your career success that you deserve. I want to leave you with one final story. So last year I had a really big breakthrough in my career. Is I realized I have been running my company for 5 years. We are a woman-owned business. And I realized as an entrepreneur and no one reporting, that you have to report to, I realized that I was actually waiting for someone to tell me what to do. And I realized that this stemmed from some very deep subconscious self-confidence issues, which I would have never thought I was struggling with, because I feel like I'm a very confident person. I'm able to communicate. I'm able to get things done and give direction, but it was very deep on a subconscious level. And once I had this awareness that I was waiting on someone to tell me what to do and how to maybe run a part of operations and to get to the next level, what would it be? But the only person who was going to do that was going to be me. And once I realized and became aware of that, I was then able to take action. So I want to leave you with a final thought on mindset. So what is something maybe that you're aware of that you know you need to change, and or that you're even unaware of that's happening? Ask for feedback from colleagues. Ask for your friends. They know your struggles and they can help you get to the next level. And women, we want to help each other. And I think when we realize that we all have these struggles, we're able to unite and become stronger together because we realize we're not alone. We're not alone in the struggle of imposter syndrome or low self-confidence. And even once we get the self-confidence and we're good, there's maybe something that can always get us. So I encourage you to surround yourself from the beginning of this conversation with a strong group of women. There's so many networks. And this is an incredible organization. Thank you again, WIDS, for having me. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to hear your feedback on this talk today, or if there's something you want to learn more about, I'm happy to see how we can connect and help each other. So have a great event, and thank you everyone for having me.